Welcome to Ladies Talking Leafs. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sil.
And it's June, and the Habs are out of the playoffs. Yes. And the Stanley Cup final is underway between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Carolina Hurricanes. Go Freddie. And we want to put the word out that the NHL has another big event that will be televised in the US and Canada on June the 8th. It's the Stanley Pup final, and it's back for a third consecutive year.
Yes, the Stanley Pup is an adorable hockey puppy showcase featuring 32 adoptable pups looking for their forever home. The NHL has partnered with Brandywine Valley SPCA, Bissell Pet Foundation, and Halo Collar to produce a 90-minute special where a talented lineup of puppies will compete in a friendly tournament on the ice.
Yeah, and there will be special celebrity appearances, including Keenan Thompson as a celebrity coach, as well as NHL players Seth Jarvis, Will Smith, and Devin Cooley, and legendary broadcaster Doc Emmerich. The show will premiere on June the 8th at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time in the U.S. on True TV and simulcast on HBO Max. And in Canada, it'll be on Sportsnet at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, also on June the 8th. The show will also air on NHL Network on June the 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern and 10:30 p.m. Eastern. And it will also be available on NHL YouTube's channel on June the 9th. So you can catch it later on too on YouTube.
So there's going to be a lot of adorable pups. Looking back at last year's Stanley Pup, Leafs were represented by Morgan Ruffley. Other well-known pups, you might recognize Claude Garrel, Taylor Howell, and Sidney Posby.
Yes, just love those names that they came up with.
We do not know who is going to be representing the Leafs this year. It could be Morgan Ruffley again. We don't know. Yeah. But anyway, people can tune in to find out who is representing their favorite teams and, potentially adopt one of these cute little puppies if you're looking for a dog.
Yeah,
in your life.
Yeah, all 32 teams are representative. And it was funny when I was watching last year's Stanley Pup final. They put everything in this game. The power play, right? Not power play, power play, and the situation room got involved, and even a coach post game media conference. So, and it was the Atlantic Division. Yay! We were the 2025 winners of the Stanley Pup. Who will be this year's champion? Check it out on June the 8th. For more information, visit NHL.com/StanleyPup, and we will include the link in our show notes.
Of course, hockey fans will also want to watch the Stanley Cup final. And as always, the Leafs are a topic of discussion. So it's time to get into our show now, starting with Leaf It to the Ladies, where we get to hear from you, Leafs Nation. And then for our third period segment, we welcome Dave McCarthy, the host of Sunday Brunch on SiriusXM NHL Radio. So without any further ado, let's talk Leafs.
All right, so thank you to the fans who take time to leaf it to the ladies. Let's hear from Kevin in Toronto, who has a question about Auston Matthews.
Hello, Chris, and hello, Sil. My name is Kevin, and I am from Toronto. My question is to what both of you ladies' opinion is on Auston Matthews. As you know, the guy has only 2 years left on his contract, and I'm pretty sure once that contract is done, he's not going to want to re-sign with the Leafs unless we offer him a whole heck of a lot of money. And we can't get Mitch Marner again by letting the contract run out and then getting nothing for him. So as far as a trade goes, I mean, it's wishful thinking, but I was always thinking a guy like Maxim Celebrini would be a great addition to the Leafs, even if the Leafs had to give up Matthews and a pick, Matthews and someone else, something like that to get Celebrini over here.
So, yeah, I don't know about Kevin's trade deal for Macklin Celebrini.
Yeah.
That's
a real, he must play fantasy hockey or something, because that's definitely a fantasy hockey style trade idea. But
yeah,
it would be so nice, but never happened. I have a feeling if Auston wants to go to San Jose, it's to play with Macklin Celebrini.
Yes. So, yeah, not to be traded for him. And really, I don't think that's the right move, personally. For the trade possibility, I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's just rumors and just people and the media just kind of creating this for some news item, because like we said in previous show, Auston Matthews said at the end of the season, he loves being Maple Leaf. He has pride in the jersey. He loves being the captain, waking up in the morning, and he takes pride in it, to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. So he has 2 years left. So I don't know. I really don't know why people are going this route about trading him. And that's about it. I mean, I just don't think the ownership of MLSE, they're not ready to take that route yet. And Matthews is only 28 years old, so it's not like he's an old man or anything like that. That he's not going to be able to return to his old self. That's what we that's definitely one of the things, though. We need to see him back to scoring, being the 50 goal scorer. It doesn't have to be 60 or 70, but at least 50, and being back to good health. That's one thing that we definitely need to see from him next season.
Yeah, I think the health question, that's a huge question mark. Yeah. He needs to be able to put, even for his own, for his own value, he needs to put together a decent season, because he's not going to be in demand if he ends up with a third season that is with less than good health, not getting back to the player that he once was. So I guess that's what we're all going to be kind of looking for. And honestly, with all the changes that are happening with our team right now, it does not make sense for any party, whether it's MLSE, Chaika Sundin, Matthews and his representatives. Really, they do kind of have to see how things play out this year, because it's a huge wild card. Nobody really knows what's going to happen, and so many things have to align. So, I just don't see it happening before the season. But who knows, if things go really south, maybe it could happen at the trade deadline potentially. But I wouldn't see it being any earlier than that. And it doesn't make sense to trade him right now, for sure.
No. And I mean, too, he holds all the cards as well, right? So it's nice to say, get a trade with San Jose for Macklin Celebrini. But I mean, does he want to go to San Jose? Right? It's his choice, right? I don't know, maybe he wants to go somewhere else. And like you said, it's a wild card, wherever, if in fact he does want to go somewhere else, for him, there's no guarantee at all, right?
No matter what, yes, he holds all the cards, but no one can see into the future. And even he said he doesn't have a crystal ball. So he really doesn't. So there's no way, there's no certainty, no matter where he goes, that things are going to work out, the way he pictures that it might either.
He wants to win, bottom line, right? He wants to win. And
but you know what? Some of that comes from the player and not the situation and the environment and the team. Yeah. At some point, if you're a true leader, you're going to have to drag your team into the fight. Yeah. And you are the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So yes, you could go someplace else and be, a secondary piece that helps people ultimately get, to the dance potentially. But, at some point, every player has the responsibility to bring their gifts to the table and help make something happen, right?
And take this team, the Toronto Maple Leafs, to the next level. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. All right. So our next Leave It to the Ladies comment comes from a reply that we had on X from Dave Lindy. To give some context to Dave's comment, he was replying to our post on X where we gave our thoughts on an ESPN article by Greg Wyshynski on how Leafs Nation is coping with Mitch Marner's Conn Smythe being this Conn Smythe favorite. And so Dave's comment to that was, he's a great player. He's gone. He wanted a change and got it regardless of how he went about it. His situation in Vegas is significantly different in that they have a cast and culture around it that never existed in Toronto. Why is this fan base so fixated on this? He asks. He's gone, folks. Okay, so to that, I would say Leaf fans are not fixated on this. Leaf fans have moved on. We moved on in July, frankly. And all of this, the narrative around this is not being driven by Leafs Nation. Leafs Nation is being trolled for sure, but it's coming from outside of our market in a lot of cases, sometimes in our market with the way the media is approaching this narrative and some of the stories surrounding it. But it is all coming from outside, and, whether people choose to listen to it or not, I honestly don't think that we're fixated on it at all. And I just can't wait for this narrative to end. Even if it ends with him hoisting the Stanley Cup, I'm fine because you know what? It will have happened. It will be done. And then hopefully it will be over and we don't have to listen to it anymore.
Yeah. No. And it's funny though, because it's a lot of it is the NHL driving it too.
Oh yeah,
with their posts on social media
good
and
clicks
everything
for them, because.
Yeah. But it's I just find it odd the way. I mean, from the start when Marner came to Toronto, was drafted and everything, and they don't even do it for Matthews. The amount of attention that Marner is getting now with Vegas, he didn't get anything from the NHL. Nothing like this. From the
when
NHL,
he was a Leaf.
When he was a Leaf. Yeah.
I know.
It's just, I don't like that part of it. It doesn't make sense to me, but it does make sense in some ways, sort of thing, because they're trolling us, like I said, like you said. And they're just using our fan base basically, as they always do, because we are the center of the hockey universe and they know that they're going to get the clicks. And yeah, it really, I just don't understand how, in this comment from Dave Lindy, he's we're fixated on it. It's we're not fixated on it. If nobody else outside of Leafs Nation, if nobody talked about it, we wouldn't care. We would just go along. We'd watch the games and great. If he wins, that's fine, right? We're not cheering for him, but hey, whatever. If it happens, it happens. And, but I mean, on our show, this is the first time we've talked to him on our show. We've tried to stay away from it, right? And and we've even on X, we've even said that we're not posting about Mitch Marner every friggin' day. It's we don't care. We have our own team. That's who we care about.
Yeah, no, I feel we were grateful to have watched him for 9 seasons in the regular season, and so. He was a joy to watch when he was playing as his joyful self. When he was not full of joy, that was a different matter entirely. So I'm just grateful that he was here for when he was, but he's not here anymore. And so we've moved on. And that's that.
It was funny. But one thing before we one last thing, I was on X, Jay Rosehill, who's on one other, the Leafs Nation podcast. He posted something. He was watching the Harold Ballard story. And he posted saying, did anyone actually live in that time, to say that they experienced the craziness of Harold Ballard? So I replied anyways, and I said, yes, we did. And I said to him, I said, that was actually the dark times.
100%.
Yes. There's no comparison.
Yes.
Whatever.
The darkness of what Mitch speaks is not that dark. I mean, it could be dark for him. Everyone has their own perspective.
Yes.
Obviously, it was a trying time for him. So I'm not belittling that. But as far as darkness for our franchise,
for the franchise,
yes, there have been darker times for sure.
Yeah. And he didn't go through any of that, like when he
No.
was playing. Okay, forget about the off-ice stuff and people that aren't fans that were doing the stupidity and everything. That's not a part of it. But for the team darkness, yeah, that was not darkness that Mitch Marner went through. It was definitely many years ago in those Ballard days. But anyways, yeah.
All right, so no more Marner talk because, as Dave said, he's gone. So we have much more important things to talk about. And for our third period segment, we're talking to another Dave McCarthy, host of Sunday Brunch on Sirius XM NHL Network.
All right, the Stanley Cup final is going on between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Carolina Hurricanes. But of course, there's a lot of talk surrounding the Leafs. It's always about the Leafs.
To talk about these questions and other Leafs news items for our third period segment, we welcome journalist and broadcaster Dave McCarthy. Dave is the host of Sunday Brunch on Sirius XM NHL Network Radio, and he is an independent correspondent writer for the NHL.com. Welcome to the show, Dave. We're so glad to have you on with us today.
No, thanks for having me. A real treat to be on. I know a lot of my colleagues have been on with you guys in the past. They speak very highly, so I was very excited to get the invitation today.
Wonderful.
Yeah, no, we're happy to have you on to talk Leafs. So let's get into it here. We're going to start off with the coaching situation that there's not a lot of information coming out as to who is interviewed for the Leafs head coaching job, except for, I guess, assistant coaches Derek Lalonde and Mike Van Ryn. I never know how to pronounce the last name right. They've done interviews apparently for the job, and ESPN's Emily Kaplan has reported University of Denver coach David Carle is considering the Leafs job as well. What are your thoughts on the Leafs search for a head coach? And do you think the Leafs should go with a more experienced, like the recycled NHL coaches that are waiting out there? Or do you think they should go to like a younger, maybe proven winner, but hasn't coached at the NHL level?
Yeah, I think it really depends on which direction they want to go with this franchise. If they're looking to retool in a hurry, load up, and try and be competitive again over the next 2 years to not just make the playoffs, but contend for a Stanley Cup, I don't know if they're capable of doing that, to be quite honest with you, in 2 years. I think that's a bit of a pipe dream. But if that's the way they decide to go, I think you have to go with a coach that has a proven track record. And of the people on the market right now, I don't think anybody serves that role better than a guy like Bruce Cassidy, who is able to come in, implement structure right away, may not have a long shelf life, tends to wear on guys a little bit, but you can say has the ability to take what he has and extract the most out of it over a short period of time. Now, that's if they want to try to be competitive, and that might not be the right course of action at this point. But then it comes down to, we all know, Auston Matthews has 2 years left on his deal, and so where is his appetite in terms of the long term? If he says, you know what, like, if you want to take a little bit of a longer path to retool, rebuild, whatever the word you might want to use, but that you're not going all in next season or the year after that to try to win, well, maybe that doesn't work for me, and it would be best if I move along. Well, then I think that changes your calculus in terms of the coach that you hire. So I think you need to get some level of assurance from Matthews sooner than later in terms of the direction that he wants to go. But you can't cater to him either. And that's the tricky part. You got to have him say, look, this is what I am feeling for myself. I'm going to be upfront with it. And I think he owes the Leafs the ability to be upfront with his plans. And the Leafs owe him the ability to consult with him on his plans moving forward. But I do not think you can run the Leafs purely to satisfy Auston Matthews. So you have to hear what he wants, and then you have to make a judgment accordingly. And so if it turns out that he's not likely to re-sign, then I think you go with a younger coach that has the ability to build and grow more with the group. and has the chance maybe to be there for longer than 2 or 3 years. And I think if that's the case, David Carl is a guy that John Chayka has interest in bringing on board. Now, David Carl has a lot of, at this point in time, leverage because he has a pretty good situation at the University of Denver. And it would take a lot of term and a big financial commitment to get him. Now, while he has leverage, my point of caution would be, okay, just because you've had experience and success at the NCAA level does not automatically guarantee you step right into the NHL and become an elite coach at that level. We've seen it in the past with Dave Haxall coming out of the University of North Dakota when he joined the Philadelphia Flyers. Didn't go that well right away. And he's been around the league and, it's kind of is what he is at this point. So I still think there's a lot of questions to be answered before we get to which type of coach they need to hire. And I think it depends on how some of those questions that I laid out, specifically what you're doing with Auston Matthews, before you get to what type of coach would be the best moving forward.
So this kind of leads to our next question in a way, because we want to talk about the NHL Draft, which is coming up in Buffalo on the 26th, 27th. So it seems like what kind of has to happen first in your mind? Like the draft, who they pick, like it seems like you could go either way with that as well. Like depending on the type of coach you pick, would that translate into who they might go with in the draft as well? Like, I don't know. We all know that they have the number one pick, and there's been rumblings that they're also entertaining offers for that pick. So which direction do you think the Leafs are going to go?
Yeah, I think
what shoe has to drop first?
Yeah, I think
it's so difficult because there's so many moving parts.
No, you're absolutely right. There really are. It's a difficult circumstance to be in right now, just because of the amount of questions that need to get answered. Look, I think it's smart to do your due diligence on the first overall pick if you're John Chayka. This is a year where there is some debate as to who they should pick. Number one overall, it's not an Auston Matthews, a Connor McDavid, a Macklin Celebrini type year. Gavin McKenna, I think, would be the guy that you would pick if you're going to pick number one overall. I think if you're looking to mitigate the amount of criticism you might get in the future, if you pick McKenna and he turns out to be very good but not great, I don't think anyone will look back and say, how could you have picked Gavin McKenna? Because it's probably the consensus pick. Yeah, you could go with Ivar Stenberg. Yeah, you could go with a Caleb Malhotra. You could try and move down and take a defenseman. But you're kind of rolling the dice at that point anytime you trade the number one overall pick and it doesn't work out. Then it's like, well, you should have just taken, whoever it was at the top. So, look, I think the smart play here is not to overthink it. I think you probably end up taking Gavin McKenna. I think he will be a good player down the road. Now, I'm not a draft expert. I've watched like 2 periods of him play at Penn State this year. But from people that I talk to, there's a high skill level there, a high skill level. And then you look at it and say, okay, well, if you've got Easton Cowan, Gavin McKenna, Matt Nyes down your left side for the next number of years, that's a pretty good left side, right? And it gives you options. So if you go out and say, well, if Matthews is on board for the long term and Nylander's on board for the long term, what do you need then? You probably need to go out and find a number 2 center and like a quality top 6 right winger that you can push John Tavares down a little bit. And then you're cooking, right? Then you've got a really good top 9. You still have work to do on the blue line, obviously, but that'd come down the road. So I don't think you can go wrong if you take Gavin McKenna. That's probably where I would lean. As it relates to the coach, I don't think the coach will affect who they ultimately decide to pick. It shouldn't. because you have to take the best player available. You can't get cute here and say, well, this coach likes to play that style, and so we need to pick that guy over this guy, even though he projects to be maybe a little bit better down the road on the short. Like that's you're losing if you're thinking like that. Pick the best player available, and then adjust accordingly as you move forward. And ultimately, I think Gavin McKenna's the guy. They had staff fly out to Whitehorse, the Yukon territories. That is not around the corner. And so you're probably not going to make that trip if you're like, yeah, we're like 50-50 on taking him, right?
Yeah. Going back just to Auston Matthews, I mean, I don't know, he's a captain of the Leafs. He's going to be 29 in September, I guess. And I don't know, don't you think, even if it takes 3 or 4 years, I mean, Alex Ovechkin was 32 when he won his first and only Stanley Cup. Like, don't you think he talks that he is like, he loves being a Leaf. He loves being the captain, waking up wearing the jersey with pride. Like he said that at the end of all of the season. Like, don't you think that he would be willing to or wanting to stay, like to sign another contract with the Leafs, like just based on what he's already said? And even if it's not next year to make the playoffs, let's just say, like I said, he's only 28 right now. So, and when you look at other players, like if they really, Alex Ovechkin obviously loved being at Washington Capitol, right? And he was treated great by Ted Leonis, the owner there, and everything's been given to Auston Matthews by the Leafs as well. Like I just don't understand how he would like kind of handcuff the organization that way. I just think, do you agree with that, or do you just think?
Yeah, well,
I guess players different these days, and they just because I mean, for his side, I mean, it worked out for another player that won't be named right now, but I mean, to go to another team, like just to pick another team to think you're going to go and win there, like it's just not that easy.
No, it's not always that easy. But look, what I would say is, I think there's some questions about Auston himself right now. It's been like 2 years since he's been the Auston Matthews that I think we think of when we talk of Auston Matthews. He wasn't very good year prior to this, and he dealt with injuries. And this year he was okay until he got hurt at the end of the year. But he was not at the level of a guy that's making $13.25 million. Like, you're getting paid that kind of money. I need you to be the guy that's shooting at the net 50 plus times a year and is a dominant force, not a guy that looks like just a guy more often than not throughout the regular season. And so I think the Leafs have to answer that question. We got to wait and see what type of Auston Matthews the Leafs get when he returns in the fall. And I do think he will return this fall. But, when you look at handcuffing and all that, I think the only way he handcuffs the Leafs is if he pulls the Mitch Marner routine, where it's, I'm just going to leave and not really going to negotiate, and thanks for everything. It's been a slice. That's handcuffing. So, and I don't think he would do that. Talking to him, talking to his agent, Judd Moldaver, neither of them have ever given me any indication that he is actively looking to leave. But in saying that, he's a pending unrestricted free agent in a couple of off seasons. He has the ability to sign a new deal next July 1st, not a month from now, 13 months from now. And that's a tipping point, right? Because once you get beyond that date, then you're into a real dicey part. Because the players got all the leverage, and teams are looking and saying, well, I don't really want to acquire him now unless we can get him locked into a long-term deal. Like Minnesota and Quinn Hughes, they've really rolled the dice here. We'll see if it works out. But, a lot of GMs don't have the cojones that Bill Guerin does. And I think understandably so. If you're going to give up the package that it's going to get to probably to get a guy like Auston Matthews, you want to have some assurance. So that's the only way I think he handcuffs him, and I don't think he would do that. And so that's why I think, by this time next year, you need to know what is going on and make that move before he gets beyond July 1st of 2027 and really a hop, skip, and a jump away from unrestricted free agency. Does he want to sign here? I'll just finish on that. He's given the Leafs a long time, right? And the Leafs have given him a long time too. And so I think we have to make sure that we don't fall into the trap of just saying, you got to re-sign all your guys. You got to re-sign all your... Maybe it would be in the best interest of the organization when you look at kind of the younger core that they are building. Cowan, whoever it is they pick first overall, Ben Danford, to reset in a way, Matt Nyes if he is not packaged, to reset the organization and bring in a number of younger prospects and probably another pick as well, that is more in line with that age range, rather than having a core of young guys and then another guy who's going to be like 31, 32, maybe before they're ready to contend. That might make sense from both sides. And it wouldn't be an indictment on Matthews or the Leafs, but maybe just prudent business. So yeah, I've never gotten any indication that he wants to leave, but I still think there's a lot of things that need to play out before both sides decide whether or not there's a partnership there that they'd like to continue.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's timing, like you say, like all the things have to line up with where your prospects are, where your core is, and everything. So yeah, definitely that sounds like a very sound analysis.
But all right, so speaking of analysis and and data, let's just say the new management team of GM John Chayka and Senior Executive Advisor Matt Sundin, you have a challenging task ahead to get this team back as a playoff team. And you kind of answered this off the top, that you didn't think that they're going to be able to turn it around like right away. So what makes you think, like, I guess even obviously Matthews, let's just say he's staying. We have Nylander. I guess what makes you think like next season it's going to be a challenge to make the playoffs, we should say?
Well, because they got a lot of work to do, right? And there's just not a lot of pieces available on the free agent market that you can bring in that can change the look of this team. If they're going to really fundamentally change the look of this team, it'll have to be via trade. And those deals are difficult to consummate at times. Now, in saying all that, it can't be any worse than it was last year. Like last year was just a friggin' disaster from start to finish. Yeah. And so I would be shocked if it goes down that road again. But when you look at the division, I don't know which hockey observers Keith Pelly was talking to, those hockey observers of his. But if he himself or those fine, keen hockey observers didn't point out that, you know what, Montreal's going to be a good team. Buffalo probably going to be a decent team here coming. Okay, Florida, if they take this right here, if Billy Zito takes the phone and throws it into the lake this summer and does nothing, and they just get healthy, they're going to be a pretty good team again. But they're probably going to do something. Tampa Bay is a good team. They're not going to be a pushover. Detroit, they're not a doormat. They're kind of like the Leafs of 2012, 2013. Like not horrendous, but not very good either. But they'll fight and claw. Boston made the playoffs this year. Who's coming out in the Atlantic Division? Right? Like seriously, it is not the pillow fight division. And ironically, the team that goes to the Cup final from the West is from the pillow fight division. So maybe those pillows were filled with bricks. I don't know. But my point is that there is stiff competition in this division to get into the playoffs. And so the Leafs are going to have to be much, much better. And they're going to have to improve their team. And right now it's very difficult to do that. So
there were some insiders that said that it could be they expect it to be a busy trade season.
Yeah.
Like over the,
you know what?
Like, do you think that might happen? I mean, it hasn't happened in a long time. But
I am starting to get a little tired with some folks who tell me every year It's going to be a busy trade. Oh, it's going to be a lot of trades. A lot of trades. A lot of chatter. A lot of you have to.
Gives us hope, but
really? Yeah. Okay. You know what? And there's too many people that have gone down the clickbait game. I just got to hear myself talk, and nothing ever comes out of it. We heard it last year, and then like literally nothing happened. And so I'm not really taking a shot at some colleagues, but I guess I am to an extent. I don't really play the insider game, but when I put out a report, take it to the bank. It's happening.
Yeah.
It's true. Book the mortgage on it. I wish more people operated like that rather than just telling me, oh, there's conversations happening. Oh, teams are talking. Oh, yeah? Really? You don't say. You don't say. Of course they are. Is anything going to happen? It could go either way. Well, then you're not telling me anything. And so, yes, teams are talking. That I can tell you. I agree with that. Does that mean it's going to lead to anything? We'll see. Now, more teams have the handcuffs off this year in terms of the salary cap with where it's going. So there will be more ease of flexibility when it comes to making moves. But ultimately, you have to look and say, which are the teams that are looking to sell off? There's not a lot of teams right now, like there maybe had been in past years, that were looking to tear down. You look at some of the perennial doormats. Anaheim, they're not looking to sell off. San Jose, they're not looking to sell off. Utah, they're not looking to sell off. Is Toronto looking to sell off? I mean, no, they're probably looking to add, right? At least with what Keith Pelly's been talking about. Buffalo, they're looking to add. They're not looking to sell. So who's looking to sell? All I see is a lot of buyers right now who walk into a grocery store right before a natural disaster is about to occur and the shelves are empty. So
that's so true. That's so true.
Yeah.
It's nice to say. It's nice to say, but if there's not a lot of teams looking to sell, where are you buying from?
So I don't know, one other question. With I guess when trading players, let's just say they're eligible, the most depth that we have, the Leafs have, is in goal. Out of the goaltenders, who would you trade if we could get something decent? Return.
Yeah. I mean, firstly, I'd push back against they have depth in goal. They've got quantity in goal. I don't know how good it is. Like, I really don't. Last year, Wall and Stolarz were really good. The team was also really good defensively in front of them. Both of them still struggle to remain available. Straight facts. It really is. And so, yeah, I don't look at it as depth. I look at it as a position of quantity. Now, they should be proactive and move one of those guys before having to expose somebody to waivers. That would be really stupid management if you let somebody get away on waivers. Now, if anyone's getting away on waivers, it's probably Dennis Hildeby. I don't think anyone's claiming Anthony Stolarz on waivers with the amount of term and money he's got still to come. And I don't think anybody's claiming Joe Wall. So who gets traded? One of Wall or Stolarz, I think. Now, is there a team out there looking to take on the type of money and term that Anthony Stolarz would have left remaining? Easier said than done. Do you look at moving Dennis Hildeby? Does he have any value? I don't think a ton. Like, you might get I really don't. Why would he have value? Why would he have value?
Well, I mean, he's not right now. He's not playing it with the Marlies he's as a backup basically to Akhtiamov. Akhtiamov has been playing amazing in the Eastern Conference Finals, but Hildeby, he played really well.
He played really well.
Came up.
Yes, he did. I completely agree with that. But goalies don't tend to fetch huge returns. They really don't, especially guys who are still relatively unproven at the NHL level. And so if anyone thinks you're getting back like a good prospect for Dennis Hildeby.
So you're saying we're not going to get Connor McDavid then?
No, I'm obviously not. But
there's a team that needs a goalie, right?
Right. But like, I'm even talking about like a 21-year-old quality prospect or like a first round pick. Don't fool yourself. That's not happening. You might get a third round pick. Okay, that's not really going to fundamentally change how your team looks. It still makes sense to make a move. Well, it is, right? If you're going to lose somebody on waivers, but it's not going to, like my point, fundamentally change what you have in front of you this year to make your team better right away is my point.
Do you see them like carrying 3 goalies next year, potentially?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Like, actually, I wouldn't, if I was the manager, I wouldn't summarily dismiss that, if for no other reason than the goaltenders have all shown an ability, like I just pointed out, to stay healthy. And so, yeah, that's not crazy. It's not crazy. It's cumbersome in terms of your roster and how it's managed. There's 2 nets on the ice, and generally when you got 3 goalies and one guy doesn't have his own net and he thinks of himself as a national leaguer, it starts to get a little bit on the, ruffled side at times.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Buffalo got through the year and they pulled it off quite well, and it worked well for them. So yeah, you know what? I guess if you're not going to get something of consequence, I wouldn't rule that out. Because having more personnel that you can turn to when Stolarz or Wall invariably does become unavailable probably is a good thing. And so that's such a good point. I wouldn't rule that out at all. And actually, I might strongly consider that, unless they can really find a deal for one of their goalies that improves their team in the shorter term.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, it's good to know that I'm not as crazy as I sometimes think I am. Anyway, so we're talking about trades here already, and one name keeps coming up time and time again whenever, talk of trade comes up again, and that's Morgan Rielly's name gets floated out. He has risen to the surface again, even with former GM Treliving suggesting that maybe a change of scenery might be good for both sides. So what are you hearing on Rielly, if anything? And do you think there's a chance that he might stay a Leaf and see renewed success here, depending on who the coach is?
Yeah, speaking of changes of scenery, I just changed mine because the sun had faded me out. So I think this is better. Cinematography live.
We appreciate it.
Live on the air here.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
So, look, as it comes to Morgan Rielly, my understanding is that they are giving him the ability to play the World Championships and not deal with those discussions, but that when he returns, some level of discussion will be had in terms of where he sees himself in the future, and what the Leafs see of him in the future. I think you have to be really careful with how you handle this. Morgan Rielly's been a really good player and a tremendous ambassador of this organization for quite some time. And you do not want to turn this into a situation like they did in New York with the Rangers over the last couple of years, where guys who were central parts of that team for many years, like Chris Kreider and Jacob Trouba, just had to go, couldn't stay. And then it was strong arm and, oh, you don't want to waive. We're going to get you out of here. And that really got ugly. And that I can tell you for a fact, the way that was handled didn't throw just a wrench, but like a grappling hook, a grenade, use any kind of barbaric weaponry analogy that you want into that Rangers room. It went over like a lead balloon. You don't want to go down that road with Morgan Rielly because he doesn't deserve it. And so they have to handle this with a degree of delicacy. But it may be a situation where it would be best for both sides to look at a change of scenery. I know Morgan loves being a Leaf, but he's been here a long time, and he's not a 1A defenseman anymore, if he really ever was to begin with.
So don't you think though then, like, they keep. I'm on the side of keeping him. I think Scylla is too. Don't you think? Like if he,
yes, we would definitely be sad.
Yeah, if he is just placed in the right place in the D pairings, like
Right.
bottom half of the D pairings, rather than as a number one playing 25 minutes. Don't you
Right.
think like that with the new coach, I guess,
Yeah,
that might be able to keep him here?
I completely agree. Problem is, who's the guy who's going to play ahead of him to allow you to bump him down the lineup? That's the
Right.
problem right now. And if they could find that guy and you could reduce Morgan's role, I think he would absolutely be a really effective player. That's what needs to happen. His role needs to be reduced, but they don't have the personnel in order for that to occur. And so if he goes elsewhere and there is some degree of salary retention involved in a trade, say you eat $2 million if you're the Leafs, and suddenly, what is he, 7.75 suddenly becomes a 5.75, and you're able to put him behind, wherever it is. Like, just let's use the Florida Panthers for an example from a couple of years ago. No, but just hear me out, right? Just hear me out, because it works with the.
Send him to Seattle with Bobby McCann there.
We'll see where Bobby ends up. But my point being is that if you brought him into Florida a couple of years ago, and you had an Aaron Ekblad and you had a Brandon Montour who could play ahead of him, and then he turns into Oliver Ekman-Larsson in Florida that year, right? Do you mean to tell me that Morgan Rielly in that role wouldn't be a hell of a player in a situation like that? Damn right he would. Damn right he would. And so I'm just using that analogy because it fits. Yeah. And, kind of Oliver at that time in his career before he came to Florida was kind of where Morgan's at right now in his career. Kind of like, where is his career going? He's not really the guy that he was earlier in his career. There's still some game left there, but he can't be a number one in Vancouver anymore. And so you got to find the right role, and that was the right role, and he parlayed it into a new deal, and he's been really effective for Toronto. Oliver has, kind of in that reduced role at a salary that allows him to play in a reduced role. He's not, a guy making $7-8 million who's playing third pairing minutes. That's too much money. That's overpaid. Now you're getting criticism, all that. Like, it just works for Oliver. And Morgan needs to be in a position like that. And I just don't see how they get to that in Toronto at this point. And that's kind of why I think a change could occur. If he could say, let's just renegotiate my deal and I'll take $3 million less. I don't know if he would do that. It probably wouldn't. I would recommend against it, to be honest with you. But if there was some magic formula where he could do that and reduce his cap hit and slide down the lineup, yeah, that'd be great, but it's just not feasible. It's not reality. And so that's why I think a move might benefit not just the Leafs, but Morgan as well, because I do still think there's a lot of game there if he's used in the right role.
Yeah, like I think you brought up that example with Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I think that move to Florida, it was a catalyst for him changing his game as well, and kind of, figuring out who he is as a player now. And I just think it's sad that, you can't do that within your own organization. And I kind of feel like, as much as we talk about player development with younger guys, like, what about player development for guys and that are older and, approaching the end of their career and, figuring out a new way to play, like kind of like how John Tavares is kind of reinventing himself a little bit right now. So I think, but maybe it takes a change of scenery like that to realize that you need to do that. And,
well, what I'd say on that as well is it's a great point, but also, how old folks get, right? You get a little older, you get a little stubborn, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guys that were one thing when they came into the league who in their mind still think they are that and refuse to change. And then what happens is those guys end up being out of the league at 34, 35, whereas other guys who are willing to recognize where they're at, show willingness to change their game, can extend their career. 3, 4, 5, in Corey Perry's case, like 8 more years, right? Like, Corey Perry isn't the same guy as he was when he won the Hart Trophy, but he's made the commitment to say, if I want to stay in the league, I've got to be a pain in the you-know-what. I've got to be an absolute ass out there. I've got to get to the net. I've got to be physical, and he's willing to play that role. You look at how Jason Spezza amended his style as his career went on. Oliver Ekman-Larsson chose to do that. I remember talking to Dave Tippett, his former coach, when he broke in Arizona, just before he played his 1,000th game year before last. And I said, I never remember him being this mean and nasty and physical. Like, where do you? And he goes, no, he's a grumpy old man now. But so, like, that's the point, right? Is that he chose to work that into his game. And now he's got another tool that makes him an effective player at this age. And so, now it's going to be on Morgan to decide if he wants to reinvent his game a little bit. Because like I said, I still think he can move the puck effectively when he's placed in the right situation. I don't think he's a guy that you want against other top opponents on the ice. It's not a matchup he's going to win very often. But if you play him on a third pair against reduced competition, you get him on the power play, the second power play, you play him 15 minutes a night, I think he can be a really effective guy. If he adds a little bit of physicality, which he's starting to, he's a guy that is willing to push and shove and hack and at times drop the gloves when need be. A little bit more of that. There's a lot there for Morgan. Like I said, though, I don't see how you get to that role in Toronto, given the amount of money that he's making and the lack of people above him in the lineup to push him down. Same problem really with John Tavares at this point. Quite honestly, he's been nothing but consistent, but ideally you'd love for him to be pushed down in the lineup. If he's your third line center, then you're really cooking, right?
Yeah.
Problem is,
second line center.
Don't have anybody to push him down at this point.
Yeah. So definitely a lot of work for the Leafs head office to do this summer on many, many fronts. Anyway, Dave, thanks so much. Your insight has been incredible. We thank you so much for coming on our show with us. Fans, be sure to check out David's show, Sunday Brunch, available on Sirius XM NHL Network Radio. And you can also find his articles on NHL.com. And we will include a link to his most recent article on Matt Sundin in our show notes for you as well. Thanks so much, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. Really appreciate being on. Have me on anytime you need me.
Great. Wonderful, wonderful. We will take you up on that. Have a great weekend.
Thanks again to Dave for coming on the show. And it was great. I love the background of his, he's very nice in his backyard there, but I really liked, he really, I guess, brought it to my attention about how it is really complicated, the Leaf situation, because of the decisions are so intertwined that they need to make moving forward. I mean, what type of coach they hire is somewhat dependent on the plans, obviously, of Auston Matthews. I mean, personally, we spoke about that, but we think he's staying. And so I guess when it comes to him staying and just the whole, I guess, the makeup of the roster with that, like,
yeah, because you're either building around him or without him. So it
and you
makes
need a coach
that
matches that.
Yeah, it's very different paths, right? So
and any trades that you do will give us a sense of the direction that the team is going and what type of coach would be best suited for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that part of it, when Dave was talking about that, about how it's all intertwined and complicated, it's definitely a complicated situation for Chaika and Sandin to get. They got to get it right. I mean, they have to do it right.
And really, all we can do is kind of watch it unfold,
Yeah.
So it's going to be like a series of dominoes, and it's going to lead a certain way. So it's going to be very interesting. One thing I loved about our talk with him is he's got strong opinions, and he's not afraid to say it. And I found it really refreshing.
Yeah.
His take on things. And I also love the fact that because he works for the NHL Network Radio, he has access to a lot of different people. I think that gives him a very broad point of view and perspective, because he's talking to different people throughout the league. and at the same time, has the pulse on the Leafs. So I thought it was really, really great having him on for that reason, because it's sort of a different perspective and very nuanced and rational that we don't always get in this market. So that was really good.
Yeah. No, it was great. And we look forward to having him on again in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we can get him on again.
Yes, he brought it up. So we're going to hold him to it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So before we go, a couple other quick notes. We want to send our best wishes to Leafs forward Max Domi, who had some complications from a procedure he had done for an injury he'd been dealing with all season. The Leafs put out a statement last week saying Domi will be out indefinitely. And I did hear today that it was something to do with the back surgery.
Oh,
and that
that's really tough.
It was Steve Simmons that put it out in the Toronto Sun. Somehow he finds out
as he's want to do. He gets the medical info. I don't know. He must know somebody at Toronto General or something. I don't know.
The Leafs probably aren't too happy about it. No, sorry, but apparently Domi couldn't walk for a couple of days.
Oh wow!
So it was quite, and it still is, I guess, serious. But so anyways, we put our best wishes to Max. Hope he gets better and he's and ready to go, if not for the start of the season, like sometime during the season, just for him to get well.
Yeah, it's tough anytime you're messing with the back, but I just feel like elite athletes, like they're strong. He's mentally strong, tough person. He's dealt with a lot with his health throughout his career and his life. So if anyone's going to get through this, it'd be somebody like him for sure.
Yeah.
On a positive note, though, the Toronto Marlies are playing in the Eastern Conference Finals of the AHL playoffs. And from the game reports, Artur Akhtiamov is playing awesome in goal, and defenseman William Villeneuve and Ben Danford are both showing that they're getting a little closer to becoming NHL players, which, boy, do we need that, especially on the back end. Yeah. As of Sunday, they're up, which is when we're recording this. As of Sunday, they're up 2-0 in the series, and this is going to be this round is a best of 7.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think they weren't expected to come this far. No. So it's awesome to see that it's a great experience, especially for like Easton Cowan as well. Apparently he's injured though. That's the injury part. We heard, I was mentioning to you still a couple of nights ago that they said that he said he was battling fatigue, but apparently it is some sort of injury that he has. So he's questionable for game 3. But we'll see how it goes. In the meantime, they're up 2-0 and they're coming back home. So go Marlies. And we'll keep an eye on the Marlies as they continue their Calder Cup run. For now, we thank you for listening on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or your preferred podcast platform. A reminder for Spotify listeners, we are available on Spotify video as well. And please follow our show to keep up to date on everything Leafs. If you are watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. All right, we need more subscribers there. We hit the 500 mark, but we want more. And we'd also love to hear from you. Please leave us a comment. Let us know what you think of the show. And we also want to thank our friends at the Believe Network at Believe.com. It's BLEAV.com, where you can also find our show.
Another way to help us out is by visiting our Ko-fi page at Ko-fi.com. You can follow us there, and if you choose to, you can support us by buying us a coffee. Any donation goes towards helping us produce the show and making it even better for you. You can find the link to our Ko-fi page on our show notes or in any of our social media profile pages.
And thank you to our healthcare workers and first responders for all that they do.
And we thank you, as always, for listening and watching Ladies Talkin' Leafs. Till next time, go Leafs, go. Go Marlies.
Go Marlies.
Do you believe?